Planning, setting goals, and motivation are the keys to success when it comes to completing projects. So in this episode, we are going to look at ways in which we can stay on track and motivated to see our projects through to fruition. Hey there friend, it's Chloe here, and when I get ready to sit down and start work on a fresh new project, here are some of the common challenges I face. Feeling like I'm drowning in a sea of tasks, thinking there's never enough time in the day, struggling to balance work and personal life, feeling like I'm constantly playing catch up, keeping my motivation going, especially as we start heading towards the end of the project, experiencing burnout and exhaustion from trying to juggle too many responsibilities. So if you've also faced some of these challenges or all of these challenges, then you already know how important it is to find solutions to these issues. So that's why in this episode together, we're going to look at some of the things I've been doing that have helped me to stay motivated during my project and actually get towards the end of it. Now, before you get started on your project, it's really important that you plan it out properly first. I've already covered that in a couple of other episodes, so I will pop links to those in the description below. What we're going to focus on in this episode is specifically staying motivated, which sometimes feels really difficult. I often have a lot of initial excitement when I start the project or during the project planning phase, but then as soon as I start to get going, all of those milestones that I've put down in my planner, they begin to feel like looming mountains that I have to somehow conquer. And that's when they become kind of scary and overwhelming. And I'd rather just put the kettle on and maybe Netflix or podcasts, or I don't really do Netflix, but I definitely do podcasts. That's my number one distraction, podcasts and Audible. So yeah. But obviously we want to be using our time and our energy towards getting our project done. We want to stay excited throughout. So here is what I've been doing to help me stay on track. The first one is set realistic deadlines, which is a lot harder than it sounds. I've already said in the project planning phase, that is like one of the most important first steps of your project. But setting deadlines sometimes just feels impossible, like you don't know how long something is going to take you. And then there's this little thing called the planning fallacy, which doesn't work in our favor because we actually end up being overly optimistic in terms of when we think we can do things. So if your projects are kind of slipping behind, it is not because you can't keep up or because you're a failure. It is because you're just a very optimistic person. So trying to find that balance between setting a deadline that's not so far in the future that you think, I don't need to start this today, I got plenty of time, let's chill out with an Audible book. Or setting a deadline that is so close to where you currently are, you actually feel overwhelmed and stressed because now you're running around trying to get too many things done in too little time. So finding that balance is quite hard, and I've said it before in a previous episode, when you're doing your project planning phase, actually making notes, which is why I love analog planning, because I can have my planner open beside me and I can just jot down things of how long something has taken me to do, so I can use that information moving forward into the next project. And I know my die-hard digital fans out there will be going, yeah, but you can just use an app for that and that. Yeah, I know. When I was a web developer, I used to use an online time login app that was great because I also had it on my phone. And but I just want to run far away from digital stuff as much as possible now. And I just love how quick and easy it is to pick up my pencil and jot something down. I haven't got to go log in somewhere. I haven't got to go crank up an app. And as soon as I pick this thing up, I'm going to be distracted by the notifications that are on the screen. So for me, going analog just helps me to stay a lot more focused. Number 2, celebrate small wins. And you've probably heard this before, but pepper in little rewards along the journey. It just helps you to stay motivated because you've got things to look forward to. And this doesn't have to be anything major. Like for me, one of my favourites has been treating myself to a new candle. Rewarding myself with a new pack of pens. And even, come a bit closer still, treating myself to a massive piece of chocolate cake after I've done an indoor climbing session. Shh, don't tell anybody. Number 3, find an accountability partner. And I have to be honest, this is something I kind of struggle with as an introvert. I don't always want to bother people with my stuff. But I can definitely say that by having someone, whether it's a friend, a mentor or a fellow small business owner who you can share your project with, and they can check in, you can check in with each other, you can do an exchange, like we share our little journey together and cheer each other on and keep each other accountable, really helps. In the past, I've had a business coach, and I can tell you, monthly check-ins, when you are paying, you want to make sure that you've actually done the things that you said you were going to do 4 weeks ago. So that's definitely a way to keep yourself accountable when you are a solo business owner who is doing self-led projects. So you don't necessarily have a client that you are answerable to because you are the client. You've only got yourself to answer to. Having that outside accountability really does help. Number 4, find your flow state. Now, this is one where I feel like it needs a whole episode in and of itself, because for me, I've got a list of protocols that I run through in order to get into that state of flow. It's about creating a vibe and setting the tone and getting my brain into a gear where it can sit down and focus. And for me, that is a bit of a process. If you can just sit down at your desk and crack on and churn things out, and you don't need a bit of a fire under your butt to do that, I'm so happy for you. But for me, I need to set the vibe, shall we say. Anyway, I'll record an episode specifically on finding flow state because it really does deserve a whole thing in and of itself. I'm currently listening to an Audible book by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, I hope I've said that right, around finding flow state and what it is and what it means. And really interesting. So I'm quite excited to record a separate episode just for creative flow state. Number 5, take breaks. And I know you've heard me say this a million times. You've probably read it a gazillion times on my Substack blog. But it is so important to take breaks. And actually part of my getting into flow state protocols is to use a timer. I set it for 20 minutes. I tell myself I just have to focus for 20 minutes and then I'll take a break. The problem is I do get into a state of flow. So I have to remember to reset that timer for an additional 20 minutes and just do a nice little 40-minute sprint and then take a break. The problem is, especially when I was a web developer, I didn't really used to take breaks other than to get myself more caffeine. I wouldn't really move from my desk, and that is not a good place to be. So by having that timer go off, it's an indication that I need to go not just hydrate, preferably with water, but maybe take a walk, take a screen break, do something else completely different, and just give my brain a chance to reset itself. Number 6, and this one might surprise you, but I try and find ways in which I can stay inspired. And you might be thinking, isn't staying inspired the same as trying to stay motivated? Yes, but no, because for me, what that actually means is allowing myself to indulge in completely different hobbies, to move away from my project and to re-engage my creativity in a completely different way. So one thing I've done is recently take up indoor climbing. I love how it's not just physical, so it gives my body a workout. It's also challenging in you got to hang in there, which is kind of quite a nice little analogy for a project, like you got to hang in there till the end. But also with climbing, with the routes, they are called projects. Like you look at a route and that becomes your project of how you're going to go from the bottom up to the top of that route that's been set, and figure out how you're going to choreograph your body vertically up the wall. And they call them projects, and it's quite a nice way to engage my logic and my problem solving side of my brain. I'm just thinking, am I actually pointing to the right side of the brain? Should it be this side? Oh my gosh. Anyway, you know what I mean. There's part of your brain that likes to solve problems logically, and you're kind of putting that problem solving into a 3D space, as it were, using your body and using the wall and using the holds. So love indoor climbing for resetting my focus and engaging my brain in a different way. Another hobby that I've recently started, and going kind of in the complete opposite direction now. If the indoor climbing is kind of not a dangerous sport, I mean, like if you fall, you are going to hurt yourself, but going from that kind of extreme to a completely different extreme of something very nurturing and calming, and getting into watercolor painting, which engages a completely different part of my brain. It engages flow state in a very different way, and also engages a part of my brain that is happy to humble itself to being a learner and not being good. I mean, both of those hobbies, when you're starting at the beginning phases and you're the noob, you do have to humble yourself. And I think that's a good state to be in, to never think that you are the top brass in the room, that there's always something that you can learn from every person that you interact with. And finally, if you're new around here, welcome. Do check out this episode where I go through project planning in 4 steps.